In this presentation, I'll show you how to build web applications that delegate users' authentication and management to external entities. This way, the developer will be able to focus just on his application business logic, leaving users' management tasks like their creation, password management, even password policies, profiling and authentication to the so-called identity provider, IDP. In addition to this benefit for the developer, there are also advantages for the users, which won't have to own a new set of credentials and which will be able to leverage existing accounts of theirs, hosted on an identity system such as Active Directory or Office 365, on Microsoft Live Platform, the so-called Microsoft accounts, on Google, Facebook, Twitter and many others compliant with a set of Federation standard specifications. Who of us doesn't actually have at least one of such kind of accounts? The tool to achieve these results is called ACN, Access Control Namespace, and is part of the Microsoft Azure Platform. Well, before getting our hands dirty, let me explain what we'll see in this session. I will do everything from scratch, and here are the steps. First, I will create an Access Control Namespace, ACN. We need a Microsoft Azure subscription, which you may activate for free. Then I will set up two Azure Active Directories as IDP for the ACN, and vice versa, I will set up the ACN as a service principal for the Azure Active Directories. I will leverage two Office 365 tenants, which can also be activated as trial version. In fact, when we create an Office 365 tenant, then an Azure Active Directory component is automatically created. We will not only federate Active Directory with the ACN, we will also add Facebook as identity provider, and you need a Facebook developer account for this purpose. Then we'll create a web application using the MVC framework. In my case, I will leverage Visual Studio 2013, and you may use the free WebExpress version from the web if you like. And finally, I will move the application from the local IIS server to the cloud, publishing it on Microsoft Azure Platform. As a matter of fact, in this presentation, we will leverage the software as a service Microsoft Platform for Office 365 and the Access Control Namespaces, as well as the infrastructure as a service platform for running the virtual machine with Visual Studio, and also the platform as a service for publishing the final application. Well, time to go now. This is the Azure control panel. We have to select the Active Directory section, then click on Access Control Namespaces, and then we click on here to create a new namespace. We must make sure that the namespace name is unique across the whole Microsoft Azure platform, as confirmed by this green icon. Then we select the region and click on Create, and in a few instants the namespace is successfully created, as confirmed here. And then we can click on Manage, because the namespace is ready to be configured. Right now it's empty. We have all the sections here. Oh, provider di identità, sorry, impossible to pronounce even in Italian. Identity providers, reline party, application integration is important because it contains information which will be used here in PowerShell for adding the service principal to this tenant. We have in fact this tenant for Office 365. I'm creating now the credentials object with the password and username. Then I connect to the Office 365 subscription. Then I import the commands from here. And finally, just for testing purposes, we list the users contained in this subscription. Now we have to add as a service principal the name of the ACN that we have just defined. So we come back to the Azure control panel. We take this string for the management portal. We copy this string and we paste into the string variable in PowerShell, so that then we can use it for adding a new service principal to the Office 365 subscription. Well, before doing this, let me just show you the existing service principals within this subscription that were created by default. I didn't do anything. Well, let's see please that the last one is called Microsoft Support Ticket Submission, which is not important per se, but it's relevant because in a few seconds the last one will be the new one that we are defining right now. So, okay, the command completed successfully. Let's run the same command to list the service principals, and as you can see, the last one is not the support ticket submission anymore. It's the new one that we have just defined. So we did the first part. We added the ACN as a service principal, and now we have to do vice versa, the federation for the IDP. Now, if this is the tenant name, then the string that we will copy in a few seconds, the string in green here, is the string which represents the metadata for this identity provider. So we can just copy this string and paste it within the Azure subscription. Just to show you the namespace, I can paste in a new tab in Internet Explorer. Okay, so we go to the Internet Providers section. We add a new identity provider. There is already one defined for free for Office for Microsoft accounts, but we now add a WS Federation identity provider. Here is the string with the metadata, and we have just to specify a name description. We can call it with the same tenant name plus Office 365 IDP, which we will use in the subscription portal, but also as a link in the list of identity providers that will be shown to the application. Now we are in Visual Studio 2013. We create a new application. This is the wizard for creating an application, MVC application, but you may use any other kind of applications like ASP.NET standard application, but MVC is particularly useful in this case because it integrates already a sort of authentication. Well, the application is created. Unfortunately, I have to use also Visual Studio 2012 because of a reason, because the wizard for identity and access is not available in 2013. So I have opened the same application from both Visual Studios, and it's perfectly supported and possible. And now I have to specify the ACN namespace plus a key, symmetric key so-called. So I come back to the Azure interface, I go to Management Service, Management Client, then Symmetric Key, and well, I copy first the service namespace, which is this one, copy and paste in Visual Studio 2012, here, and then I take the Symmetric Key, which is shown here, okay, and that's it. Visual Studio 2012 takes care of creating the rules and the federation. As you can see, these are the two identity providers that Visual Studio has identified. We just save and then we come back to Visual Studio 2013 and we can already start the application. We start the application, which identifies that no user is authenticated so far, of course. So it redirects, as you can see, to the Office to the Azure Platform, where I can select the IDP that I've just defined. I select a user belonging to this subscription, and it works. So as you can see here, there is a hello with the email address of the user that has just been authenticated by Office 365. So what we can do now is to add a new identity provider, always of Office 365 kind. So this is the new tenant. I can replace the credentials object with the new credentials. Then I connect to the service and execute. I don't have to re-import the module. Just to show you the users, they are different from the previous ones. The service principal name address, of course, is the same. So I have just to execute the new NSOL Microsoft Online Service Principal command, which added this service principal to this tenant. And then we take the same kind of information that we took before with the metadata that we will paste into a new identity provider of WS Federation kind. Next, and then as we did before, we paste here the metadata. We put a description, Office 365 IDP. We copy and paste as a login text that will be shown to the application and save. That's it right now. So let's come back. These are the three identity providers. Let's come back to the application and let's try to run the application again. We should see the three identity providers. The first one is the last one that we used a moment ago. Let's take the second one, a user belonging to this subscription, but what happens now? There is an error. No output claims were generated during the rules processing. And this is because we have actually to generate the rules, which Visual Studio 2012 made for us before. But in this case, we will do manually. We go to the rules group on the Azure administrative portal, and we see that there is this pass-through, these two pass-through rules for Windows Live ID and the first tenant, and we add a new pass-through rule for the new IDP, which is this one. And we have just to confirm the default values because they will simply pass all the claims received by the Office 365 IDP to our application. So we can put another name just to remind the difference. And now we have three set of rules, or just three rules. We have just to rerun the application without, of course, recompiling. We select the new IDP, the user, and now it works as before with a different user in this case, of course. And let's note that this is an email address, because in a few seconds we will see an interesting thing. Now let's add a new identity provider, the last one I promise. But in this case we make a different identity provider for Facebook. What do you think? Facebook, okay? What does Facebook require? Well, it requires an application ID and an application secret. Such information are provided by Facebook when you create a new application. I'm already logged with my developer account on Facebook, and I simply create a new application. I put a display name, web application 1, authentication, and I select this category and I create the application. Okay, the captcha. Then, creating this application is not enough. I also have to specify the purpose for which this application authentication is created. And the purpose is a website. So once the application is ready, I will click on Settings on the left and specify this platform. Okay, the application ID is already shown, but in the settings, as I was saying, I have to add a platform for website. Okay, here, website. Then I have to put the site URL that for Facebook is our ACN. So we come back, okay, here for instance on PowerShell, and we take the same string, of course, that we used before for Office 365, and we put this string in the Facebook interface, and then we can save. Click here. Okay. Well, the application is created. Now I take the application ID, this one, and I paste in Azure. And then we take the application secret. Okay, correctly it asks me the password again. Okay, this is the secret. Please don't copy it. And paste here and save. Okay, Facebook is added. Let's see if these full identity providers work in our application. Oh, and first let me add the rules, otherwise it wouldn't work, as Office 365 didn't work before. So I simply put a pass-through rule for Facebook, as I did before for the second Office 365 tenant. Save. Okay, it's all done. The rules are done. The identity providers are created. And now let's run the application again. No recompiling needs. Now we see Facebook as an additional identity provider here. Facebook. I'm redirected to my Facebook application. I put my credentials. And now I'm asked to confirm that I'm available to share my public profile and my email address with this application. I say yes, and then I'm authenticated. Let's see above after hello. And please note that in this case I'm not saluted with my email address, but with the first and last name. This depends on the fact that the claims sent by the identity providers are not standardized. So, in order to do it with the ACS, Access Control Namespaces, let's use this interesting article which contains an interesting section, view claims sent by the ACS. So in this section it explains how to show the specific claims sent in a token from the identity provider. We have simply to add a new method here to the home controller. So I can select the controller class and then add this method. Of course I could have just simply stopped with a breakpoint the code, but in this case, okay, let's add a namespace for this. In this case it's more elegant to do this way. Okay, so we have to add the method, then we have to add a view to this controller. So right click and add view here. Okay, let's leave the default values, and then we have to replace the standard text with this piece of code which simply iterates through the claims the claims list and show them in a tabular form. Okay, oh, just here. Okay, well, the object is viewBag claims identity.claims. This is the object which the collection of claims that is provided. Okay, copy and paste into here, and then we have just to rebuild the solution or simply run the project, the application. And let's see what happens. We will be redirected to home claims page that we have just created. Let's take any identity provider like this one. And for Facebook, we see the claims. There are 1, 2, 3, 6 claims, if I'm right. And please note that the name claim is the same as the information that is used above to show my name. Now let's take the Office 365 IDP. And we will see that for the same claim we have different claims, much more than, if I'm right. But for the claim name we have a different information. We have the email address. So if we want, for instance, to change this value and make sure that under the name claim we receive the first name, for instance, we can simply go to the rules section. We can remove the default pass-through rule for this identity provider, and then we can generate automatically the rules here, generate, for this identity provider, all the rules, the default rules, which are pretty much, okay. And what we have to do is to take the name claim and pass the first name rather than email address information within this claim. Okay, so this is the output claim, but for the input claim we want to take the given name or first name, given name, claim. So we copy this information, we paste into this rule here. Okay, so what we say is that this is the input claim, given name, and the output claim is name. Let's save it, and then we run the application again. And we should see Luigi rather than the other email address. Okay, and then okay, I have to do one last thing. The name identifier is not automatically created, so we have to manually add it. So we take the IDP for this IDP that we are creating, we enter this claim, and then we leave the defaults because it will be passed through. We don't have to select anything else. So this claim will be passed as it is. Unfortunately, by default is not passed, so we have to do it manually. Okay, let's come back to the application now. Before we have to save, okay, and let's come back to the application. And just run it again, without any recompilation. Debug and start without debugging. Okay, we select this identity provider, and now we should see Luigi rather than his email address. Okay, Luigi is written here, and the name claim contains the given name rather than the email address as before. Good. Okay, now as a last thing, we want to publish this application on the Azure platform. So we go to Publish menu. We are already signed with my Azure subscription name account, and then I give a name to this application. Web application 1 is already taken, so 01, let's try. Okay, this is unique right now. Then I select my subscription, I select a region, and finally I have just to click on create. So the application is being created. Let's use HTTPS. Okay, next. And we can just click on publish, and let's see what happens. In a few seconds the application is created and then is published on the Azure Platform as a Service. It takes a little bit more the first time, and then it will be much quicker next time. Web application 01, as you saw. We select the identity provider. It seems working, but now when it comes back to my page, I'm not on Windows Azure anymore. And this is because there is still the old information for the realm. So we have to change the realm from here. We also have to add it to the audience URIs, which are the accepted URIs for this application. And then we have to replace the realm with this new value. Okay, paste here. Okay, we can now run the application again. Or better, we have to publish the application. Okay, now, we have an error. Reline party was not found. Actually, this is correct, because web application 01 is not the reline party. Right now, in the Azure administrative region, we don't have the right reline party. We still have the old reline party, but this is not an issue. We just have to add a new reline party specifying the address where this application is hosted. Here. Okay. We don't want to create a new rule groups, but we can leverage the existing rules. We have just to save. Okay, so as we can see, there are two reline parties, and we can simply rerun the application. Publish, and let's see what happens. We choose any identity provider. Let's choose this one that we never used before, and let's see if it works. No, it doesn't work. Well, since this is not my local IIS, I have to enable the error showing. So I go to system.web, and then I add, as suggested, custom errors mode false. Custom errors mode equal off. Okay, so we will now see the error. Okay, Let's publish it again. We will get an error, but at least we will know which error it is. And the data protection, oh yes, data protection operation was unsuccessful because the profile for the current thread user context was not loaded. Well, I remember a very interesting article from Vittorio Bertocci that we may also look for now, showing why this happens and how to fix it. You may fix with, okay, here it is, using Visual Studio 2012 wizard, or we may just paste this snippet into system identity model identity configuration. So let's look for identity model. Okay, here it is, identity configuration. We can just paste the piece of code that Vittorio gave us. Okay, Control D to indent correctly, and then let's publish the application for the last time, I hope. Okay, we select the identity provider, Windows Live ID, and we are back, okay, to Web Application Azure website. We are not shown our name, but this depends, if we go to Home Claims, depends on the fact that this claim was not generated. As you can see, the name claim does not exist here, and this is the reason why there isn't this information shown on the page. That's it. Thank you for your time, and see you soon.